And here we go. Let's just check the microphone. Top volume. We're recording. Lens cleared. I probably look like crap, but still. Let's get another video up. It's day 1 of week 33. It's pretty exciting. Do need to start running. I do need to get out of that door a lot earlier. So yeah, it's coming on to 11 o'clock in the morning. Hooray! It's one of those days where I've got to start work early. It's a Monday, so I start work at 2 p.m. So I'm out in the woods just before that, getting some footage. Day 1, week 33. It's the 2nd of December, would you believe? Started all the way back in May. It's becoming a thing. My relatively regular exercise in the woods. So yeah, so we're in the final month where Urban Agoge is going to be the only thing I'm doing, because on the 1st of January I'm launching the culture, and I'm going to try and use this month, including the week off I've got next week, to get a whole bunch of stuff ready. So if there's anything that you would like to see as an Urban Agogan, then yeah, now's the time, because I'm going to be spending a lot of time this week planning out next week's filming schedule. So I'd like to spend 2 days filming lots and lots and lots of very short videos. So if you've got any ideas for books that you want reviewed, or ideas for bits of kit or types of kit that I may or may not own to be reviewed, you know, like now would be the time. So I'm hoping that you'll all join me on the culture. I will still keep lots of this morning. I'm going to still keep Urban Agoge going into the new year, because I think it would be interesting to have a year's worth of vlogging. It's lovely out here. I don't know if you can really see the amount of frost that's on everything, but it's great. So yeah. So I'm going to be getting the studio ready. I'm going to be trying again to get the HDMI output recording for like a Fallout series. Indie Gale, one of my subscribers, well, let's be honest, my daughter, nepotism, suggested that I might try The Sims, so that's good. After I've done Fallout 4, so we're going to be doing Socialist Fallout 4. So I'd better really, you know, get some filming done, or at least a chunk of filming done next week before the general election, because I'm either going to be celebrating pretty hard or commiserating pretty hard afterwards. But yeah. But there was a very good quote that Harlequin sent to me from Sun Tzu, that sort of pretty much says, do not despair, do not be desperate, be calm. You know, when you have no resources, be resourceful and stuff like that. You know, sometimes failure or insurmountable odds can be a better spur than victory. Oh yeah. But I think people are still pretty stupid. So yes. So one of the things I want to do for the culture is a thorough exploration, which involved doing a lot of research, and a thorough sort of series on the 13 points of the art of war. I think that would be a useful thing, because guess who reads the Art of War? You know, it's basically the military-industrial complex and capitalists. It's required reading at West Point. It's required reading for the US Marine Corps officer program. You know, it's pretty much required reading at Harvard. And it's, you know, it's probably more of a misnomer. It's probably only called The Art of War because the person that wrote it was a general. Sorry, I'm being very careful on the steps because they're covered in icy leaves, and that would really suck. That's like spinal injury in the woods. Complete lack of fun. So yeah, so if the guy that wrote The Art of War had been a businessman, it would have been the art of business. But it is the art of success, or the art of putting your brain in a place where it can see a different viewpoint. And we're already doing it. I am an ordinary bod. I get to make television with no gatekeeping. Well, the gatekeeping may come about as a result of the changing YouTube stuff. Zoo Echoes was kind of like, yeah, it is. You've got one massively global business, and then you've got me talking about opposing the forces of capitalism and the forces of the self-serving. In a way, you know, whilst utilising the tools of capitalism. I'm using a digital camera that's made in a massive factory somewhere in China. My laptop's the same, but, you know, at least my laptop was second-hand. You know, it really is the best feeling, yanking something out of being potential landfill. That's a good feeling. The HD recorder that I'm pushing to usefully use is that's another example of second-hand. You know, most of my audio equipment is second-hand. My main gaming rig is second-hand. All my laptops are second-hand. I haven't bought any new electronics kit apart from all this camera rig. So yes. So, yeah. A lot of planning needs to take place. Look, there we are. Yeah, you were having a look at lovely woodland and now it's me. But, you know, this serves to, you know, otherwise I could just record hours and hours of woodland wander footage. And then it wouldn't be like anything like live, would it? You wouldn't know that I'm recording it on this day. Yeah, so I think the vlog's going to continue until at least May next year. It might not be 7 days a week. I'd like it to be. But sometimes, you know, life gets in the way. When I consider this my real job, I have to go and do my my alt job in order to pay rent and have somewhere to live. You know, it's nice to be able to be so near to a piece of woodland that I can wander around whenever I feel like it. So yeah, so got some ideas. It's not going to happen right now because it's too bloody cold to be out for hours and hours. But as soon as the weather turns and we move into spring, I want to do a kind of grand designs type TV show about building, you know, a second home, you know, or a bug out bunker in these woods somewhere. I don't know if I can find somewhere, you know, really off the beaten track. You know, it won't be ownership, because if anybody needed it and they found it, of course they'd be welcome to use it. But I want to do it right. You know, I want to put in, I've got some ideas about putting in a wood burner. I've got some ideas about, you know, putting in a loop for a solar panel, and maybe a good radio aerial, if I can figure out a way to do it, and a cache of food and supplies and water. You know, maybe a spare set of clothes, even if it's just a boiler suit and a set of underwear that's just in a Ziploc bag, and a warm jacket. So yeah, you know, build a survival retreat, but on unused land on the quiet. So yeah, so that might be a thing, but that would be another sort of 20 episodes. So what I'm looking to do is along with a vlog, record, and maybe the vlog will be a daily thing, and then there'll be a bonus video, like a little 10-minute video review, or a book review, or a gear review, or a skill, or a point of philosophy. But I'd like to group all those things. So like, oh, I've got to stop. So yeah, many plans for things to do in the future. It's all good. We'll get it up and running. So yeah. So to be honest, I think the culture will run alongside of it rather than instead of urban agoge or rangers. I think I'm still gonna spend some time and some bandwidth, especially if the culture becomes a thing. What I'd really like is for there to be like a crossover period for you know, uploading everything to either Rangers or Urban Agoge, and then uploading it all to the culture, and maybe have some very specialised culture type stuff. It's kind of where I'm going with it. So eventually the channel is the culture. Although, you know, I mean, I really love what we achieved with the Rangers, but I'm wondering what we could achieve, you know, with, you know, something along the lines of the culture. Just because I think the Ian Banks culture series is, you know, outside of Star Trek, the most positive of all the future scenarios. You know, humanity gets its shit together. We basically have AI, because I think it's one of those things that Star Trek just doesn't get. I mean, although I love Star Trek, I love the whole thought behind it. Oh. It is. I've just seen my first robin of the winter. Let's see if we can get close. They're normally pretty fearless. You know, British robins. No. It's done a bunk. Ah, that's a shame. So yeah. Robins are pretty interesting birds. They're depicted as winter birds, but if you're paying attention, you'll see them all year round. They don't migrate. They're too little. They just don't have the energy capacity to go anywhere else. But people seem to see them more often in winter. You know, they're not a Christmas bird as such. They're more and the whole idea behind the robin thing at Christmas, is it used to be slang for postman, because they used to wear red waistcoats and red jackets to deliver the mail. I haven't really got time to do a long explore. Maybe that's a tomorrow thing, where we get a longer episode. But certainly becoming entirely possible to go to the other bit. We need a few more big rocks. Might have to come out here with a big rucksack, poach some rocks from the river, and build myself a causeway. You know, ideally something, I mean, if you look down there, let's see, am I getting it in shot? Yeah. So it properly slows down there. All that needs is another couple of nice rocks. That won't disturb the passage of the river, but it'll allow me to get across to the other bit again, because the shape of the river changed. So yes. So yeah, so the post office, what was it called? Royal Mail. It wasn't even called Royal Mail, it's GPO, General Post Office, who then became the telephone thing and the post office for a long, long while. suppose it's a little bit like signals in the army went from, essentially rocketry and dispatches, all the way up to, so they went from the cavalry's gallopers, as in the people that would carry dispatches to and from, which was, if you've ever heard the term hussar, Hussar, they were a very fashionable unit to have in your army. So they were super light cavalry that were capable of moving very fast. They had beautiful uniforms, and if you ever look at an image of a hussar, there'll be a weird kind of satchel attached to them. And the difference between hussars and dragoons is hussars pretty much stayed mounted during any kind of actual battle, and they would have some of their number carry a thing called a sabretache, or sabotage. And that would be used to carry documents from officer to officer, including battle orders, and it's sort of hung down at knee level. So if you ever see a full hussar's uniform, it's not complete without a big document satchel and a very low slung sabre. Basically, you can't walk around in a full hussar uniform because it's impossible, because the sabretache and the sabre hang so low that it makes walking very difficult, but it's very convenient for horseback. So those guys became Royal Signals largely, although the hussar's name didn't travel. So yeah, bit of military history. And the GPO were the same. They were the posties, and they were the people that delivered telegrams. And there doesn't see, if you're looking at the telephone as a new technology, there isn't a lot of difference between a telegram or a telex, or any one of 100 different messaging systems, all initially using Morse code. And basically the telephone signal travelled exactly the same routes as the telegraph, and telegraphy. Go from telegraphy and wireless to telephone. It was all under the same banner. As late as the mid-1970s, it was still the General Post Office in the UK. So yes, it's very interesting the way messages go. How British Telecom were the first people to provide broadband, and then it was owned by a whole bunch of companies when they started selling off the rights to connect people up to the internet. And it looks like if we achieve a minor miracle of common sense in next week, next Thursday, it's the 12th of December, if you live in the UK and you're not registered to vote, please do so now, although you might have missed the deadline. And just think about who you're voting for. There has been a lot of controversy with the Labour Party, as in the party that will actually do stuff for working people, unlike the Conservative Party, who are just going to I can't even bring myself to really, without incredulity, say empower the rich. They're already powerful, they're rich, they already have all the power, and I don't really see it's a good idea to give them even more, because those are the concerns, the wealthy interests that are kind of slowing up any kind of change. And I don't think anybody can disagree that we need major change on planet Earth. And from a very selfish and localized viewpoint, as in living in the UK, there are changes that need to be made. And the only people that are capable of making them, or that have any interest in making them, are, in my opinion, the Labour Party. And yes, that is blatant electioneering, it's blatant self-interest, but most of it is to do with, I think it would be very beneficial to my ability to sleep at night if the world changes in such a way as every child is educated, clothed, housed, fed, has access to information. I guess that falls into educated. But really, you know, we could use that kind of change on planet Earth. I mean, the depressing thing is that people will always counsel against the empowerment of the poor. People always say, oh, it's not possible, there will always be poor. And with that attitude, yeah, there probably always will be. But I would like to see a day where there is at least a measure of equality of opportunity in the world. I don't expect there to be equality of, you can't have humans being equal, but yeah, there's been a lot of popularist research and fiction that sort of says, oh, if everybody's equal, look how terrible it would be, you know. And yes, everybody has this, you know, flirtation with Ayn Rand at some point in their lives, and I'm one of those people, but I was significantly crappily educated to you know, really buy into it for about 10 minutes, you know, figuratively 10 minutes. I read Atlas Shrugged, and I read We, and I read The Fountainhead and shit like that. And they seem to be, you know, if you're, you know, blessed with more than 100 points of IQ, you sort of like look at it and go, oh, yes, there are standout individuals that should be allowed to achieve whatever they want. But then when you look at the reality of it, generally speaking, those standout individuals, unless they're shaman, are generally born into at least a level of middle class wealth, you know, at least an understanding that of the principles that middle class and upper class children are born with. The whole, you have every right to run the fucking universe. And that's not true. But I do believe in those standout individuals that genuinely come from nowhere. People like Henry Rollins. You know, even if they are born middle class or working class, you've got people like Keir Hardie, you know, the founder of the Labour Party back in the 1910s, I think. You got people like Sylvia Pankhurst, who, yeah, upper middle class, but gave of themselves to make people's lives better. That's a true leader. And yeah, you know, you could argue that working class people in the UK aren't exactly impoverished, they just think they are. You know, it's almost like the idea of willing yourself to death. Yes, you can will yourself into ignorance. You can will yourself into impoverishedness and poverty. Or you can take your pain and the things that you are depressed about, the fact that the world is at the moment it's an inherently unfair place. On the whole, I think there are some countries that do really strive for a minimum level, and quite a high minimum level of opportunity and expectation, you know, fair expectation. And when you have that, oh, that's impossible to walk through. It's a horse track. Okay, so, and when you have that minimum level of reasonable expectation, like a minimum understanding that, you know, you too should be housed by your government if no one else, and you too should have a reasonable expectation of getting a job that gives you a reasonable expectation and access to information, not entertainment necessarily, but the ability to research things for yourself and to look into stuff, and an expectation of being able to educate yourself, and you know, a basic education that encourages that. Then life tends to be a bit better. Why am I working so hard to get back to home? Anyway, so that's where I'm going to leave it. You know, so I want to become one of those people that helps, you know, via the only thing I am reasonably interested in. You know, I could give a boring lecture, everybody could. I could start from the basics of mathematics, I could probably teach that. You could argue that that would be more useful than fomenting dissent. As in not going down, but fomenting people questioning stuff. I think you should question it. Why are there so many people that can't afford food when there are people that can buy private jets? This is not okay. You know, why should I fund people that will cheerfully fuck up my planet ecologically? Why I would rather educate people on how to, you know, impact their environment less and question the pervading monstrosity of capitalism more. So that's my thing. You know, capitalism is great until you're essentially fueling the kind of vast levels of inequality that we're currently seeing in the world. And when those people, you know, do what they want, lots of people aspire to doing what they want. We'll want a level of freedom where we don't have to work, you know. But it's never in a very socialist way. It's like in a way that is at the expense of other people. And that's what I've got a problem with. You know, if that jet was ecologically powered, if it was an electric private jet, I would have much less of a problem with it. If that person had funded education for the world's poor. And I know largely it's the fault of the governments and individuals can't be held responsible. But when you've got $500 billion, you know, along the lines of Jeff Bezos, you know, and you're just doing nothing with it. It's just a scorecard, but it represents the deprivation of billions. You know, you've got to question that. You know, Jeff Bezos could basically kick off a Star Trek environment with $500 billion. But he's not. You know, I don't think I could own that kind of money without going, right, okay, it costs $175 million a year to make sure that everybody gets fed. Well, let's spend that for the years that are intervening before we actually rebuild the infrastructure of those poor people. Yeah? You know, which will cost a lot less. But their immediate problem is not dying from lack of food. So, you know, it's not going to cost that much money. You know, when, you know, the Labour Party is changing the face of an entire Western country, or it wants to, for 200 billion, but that is 200 billion where money will come in back as a result of that. That's not negative 200 billion. It's, you know, maybe negative 20 billion with being offset by taxes on things that are harming the environment. You know, let's punish the people that are destroying our planet. And the only way they'll really understand is by, you know, taxing the crap out of them and making it unprofitable, you know, and certainly not supported by a government. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. That was me randomly blaring on. There is new stuff coming. This is my response to the way the world is broken. I'm going to fight it with art, and fight it with my brain, and fight it by helping out and helping people understand certain things. Anyway, so I'm going to stop. Properly going to stop now. And so thanks for watching. And do take care.